So this is the one thing. Second thing is the attendance will be viewed very seriously. So I'm just informing out of curiosity offline. So attend all the classes, not my class, all the classes, right? So now the attendance will be taken easily from the Microsoft Teams, as you know. After completing the class, I can download the attendance. Who are all attended, at what time you attended, when you left, every data will be available, right? So make sure that you are attending classes properly. So if you're not attending, I don't know like what is the action they will take, but still I'm just telling, I'm just informing out of curiosity. Attend all the classes, not only my class, all the classes, right? Okay, like let me start the session. All right, so before we just go and talk much about the Java programming, see, as I said, Java is going to use the syntax of C programming and object-oriented characteristics of C++. See, I just went through a little bit fast yesterday through slides because already we have discussed, and now we stopped at data types. As we are discussing yesterday in C programming, we have two types of data type where we'll call it as basic data types and derived data type, or you can also call primitive or non-primitive data types. So Java also allows data types. Java also allows variables. Java also gives us some keywords, as we have seen yesterday. See, why we are telling all these things is as per syllabus it is there. Actually, if we go for real-time training, we'll teach all these things within a span of 1 hour, right? Because as per syllabus, you need to write the answer. So that's why we are going step by step slowly. So in Java also we have data types, we have variables, we have identifiers, we have loops, we have conditional statements, same like C programming. How we have studied in C programming, same like that. Here also we have all the features, whatever C allows, right? So today we are going to talk much about the data types. So let me just go through this. Yeah. So these are the different data types supported by the Java. So the data type will be Boolean. So the range will be either false or true, which will allocate 1 bit. So when it goes to character, it will be between 0 to 65,536, which is of 2 bytes, right? See, I'm not going to stress much on this. Probably you might have studied in your C programming. When you studied about data types in C programming, you might have seen about what is range, why this range is mentioned, all those things. So I don't want to stress much on that. So let me just go through this. So these are the different types of data types which will be supported by the Java: Boolean, character, byte, short, int, long, float, double. These are the very primitive data types, like I could say like very basic data types which are supported. So the size of these things are: Boolean is 1 bit, character is 2 bytes, byte is 1 byte, short is 2 byte, integer is 4 byte, sorry, long is 8 bytes, float is 4 bytes, double is 8 bytes, right? So not really you need to remember all these things. See, just for your exam purpose, you should remember. If they ask you to talk much about the programming, I mean data types in Java, then you need to write it. Otherwise, no need to remember much about the range. The only thing you should remember is size. So the size is very important for your interview also. What is the size of the integer? 4 bytes. What is the size of the float point? 4 bytes. What is the size of long and double? 8 bytes. Character 2 bytes. Right? So that is very important. You don't worry about this range. See, this range is something which is mentioned as per our just for our reference, right? So let us start with one by one. So integer, yes, Java supports integer, but Java does not support unsigned integers, right? So it will support only positive integers, not negative integers or negative values. So if you want negative values, again you need to go for either byte or you can go for long int, short int, etc., etc. Right? So you can go for bytes. So there you can have it. Then characters, as said, so characters, Java uses Unicode representation of the characters where you can define it as character and you can start storing the characters within that, right? So suppose, there are so many character sets actually in probably in DBMS you will see about it. There are so many characteristics, sorry, character sets like Latin, Greek, Arabic, Cyrillic, Hebrew, Katakana or Katakana, Hangul, and many more. Like so many are there. So Java supports all these things. See, you may ask one question to me. Sir, what is this sets? Right? What is this all character sets? See, when you want to write a output or when you want to get or when you want to store or when you want to work with regional languages, when you want to work with regional languages like Telugu, Kannada, Malayalam, Tamil, etc., we require Unicode formats. We'll call them as Unicode formats. So Java supports Unicode formats in the form of character sets. Java supports Unicode formats in the form of character sets. So that's why Java is allowing us to work with character sets of different types or different character sets, right? Now, how to define character in Java? It is same like your C programming. Char ch1 equals to a single quotes. Say for example, if you want to represent ASCII codes, you can also represent the ASCII codes. So when I print the value of ch1, so that is going to be A. When I print the value of ch2, it is going to be capital A, because the value of character 65 is, as per ASCII code, it will be 65. So that's why it's going to take that value. That's why it's going to take that value, right? Next, how we are going to use byte values. So when you want to work with a binary data, right? So you can use a byte. So byte B1 equals to 100, B2 equals to 20. So when you print it, so you will get that values. So can any one of you tell me what is the difference between a byte and int? Because here also we are storing integer values. There also we are storing integer values. Then what is the difference between byte and int? What would be the difference between byte and int?
Unassigned integer.
Unsigned integer, okay. Any other difference? All right, so let me tell you that. It's very simple, as we have seen in the table. So as Ashish also mentioned, we can also store the unsigned integers, but byte is 1 byte, very small in size. Integer will be 4 bytes. So you can store only 1 byte value in the byte, whereas in integer you can store the long numbers, right? Apart from that, so unsigned integers can be stored in byte, but not in the integers, right? Next, Boolean. So as all of you know, Boolean, it is either true or false, either true or false. So you can assign the Boolean value as true or false, right? Next, float point numbers. So this is also same like your C programming. So where we are going to store the float point numbers, where we are going to store the float point numbers. Float point numbers is nothing but float numbers like 10.4, 10.5, 20.6, right? Next is double. So what is double? So when you want to go for the highest precisions, like after dot you want to have 10 digits, 20 digits or something like that, a long integer values or long float point values, then you can go for the doubles, right? So double. So usually when we use this double is when you want to work with the trigonometry kind of things or square root functions. So then we'll write the double values. So double values. So double stores, as we have seen here, the double stores the 8 bytes. So you can store maximum precision values using the double. Fine. So see, nothing differ here except the byte. It's almost same like your C programming. However you define C programming data types, Java also going to have the same kind of data types. You can use integer, you can use character, you can use float, long int, double, right, etc., etc. So there is no change. There is no much change, right? See, apart from this, see, Java also supports a kind of concept or a kind of value called literals, right? So what is literal? A literal is a source code representation of fixed value. A source code representation of fixed value is called Java literals, right? So no need to do any computation. Directly we can store them in the variables. So that means you have one variable, you can assign directly value to that. That is called literal. For example, in here In the byte A, we are storing directly the value of 68. Whereas in character small a, we are storing the value of capital A, right? So that means we are going to store some value directly into the variable is called Java literal, which is called as fixed value. When the source code is going to have a fixed value, then it is called Java literals. So either you can have fixed value, or you can also have dynamic values sometimes, or you can also have dynamic values sometimes. So that's why we are specifically telling when you have a fixed value, which is called as Java literal, like A going to store 68, small a is going to store capital A. Right. Now, as you know already, so all the numbers cannot be represented directly. So it might be integer, byte, long int, and short int. It will be expressed in the form of decimal format, hexadecimal format, or octal format. Decimal is nothing but base 10, hexadecimal is base 16, octal is base 8. Right? So for octal number, prefix will be 0, and prefix 0x indicates hexadecimal when we are using it. If it is a decimal number, directly we are going to take whether it is 3 digit or 4 digit. So based on that, we are going to do. Now, if you see this value 2 power 0, 2 power 1, 2 square, so it is going to be 4. It's going to be 4. So like that, we are going to use decimal, hexadecimal, octal numbers when we want to store the values. At the same time, Java also supports string literals. Java also supports string literals like other languages. What is string literals? As I said, literal is nothing but direct value. So when you want to print some string values directly, you can do the string. We can call them as string literals, right? These string literals, as I said a couple of minutes before, we use Unicode characters to represent. Unicode characters to represent. So this is how the Unicode characters are going to be. See, Unicode is nothing but either it might be a regional language, or it might be some language which we are going to use. So for that, we are going to make use of it. See, in your whole 4 years of engineering, you are not going to study, or you are not going to work on Unicodes except in your projects. So if you are working on any of the project where Unicode support is required, then you can use it. So we will call that as UTF-18. UTF-18. UTF-18 is nothing but Universal Text Format or Unicode Text Format. Universal Text Format or Unicode Text Format. What is this UTF is? When you want to work with the regional languages, you can represent them in the Unicode format. Unicode is nothing but zeros and ones. Zeros and ones. So based on that, we are going to make use of it. Right? When you study database, you come to know much about it. Then, yeah. So these are some characters which we need to remember in Java when you are writing the program. /n, as usual, it is for the new line. /r, it is for the carriage written. /f, form feed. B, backspace. S, some space. T, tab, double quote, single quote, backslash, octal character, hexadecimal Unicode character. Hexadecimal Unicode character. So like this, the Java will help us when you want to represent some new line characters, carriage returns, or form feeds, etc., etc., etc. Can any one of you tell me what is form feed? What is form feed? We are telling their form feed, right? So what is that form feed? Yes? Any idea? Right. See, form feed is nothing but whenever you are going to print something, so if you give form feed character, before form feed character, whatever data is there, that will be printed in one sheet. After form feed character, it will start from the new sheet. It will start from the new sheet. See, usually how it works, I'll tell you. So you might have one PDF document of 10 pages. So you have given printer to print the 10 pages. So what is going to happen? So it will be printing one by one, one by one, one by one. Sometimes what we will do is we will say like automatic adjustment. Let it get adjusted based on the papers. So that is called form feed. So the form feed is going to help us whenever you want to print a data. So you can eject the paper there itself and you can start from the new page. You can start from the new page. So that is called form feeds, right? So Java, we can use the form feeds. So by using which you can say that up to what extent you need to print in this sheet, then where you need to start from second sheet, third sheet, fourth sheet, etc., etc., etc. Right. Then what is carriage written? What is carriage written? These are all very basics you should know because of interviews. You should understand this. What is carriage written? Yes, in Java.
It is used to reset the device position.
Sorry?
It is used to reset the device position.
Very good. It is used to reset the device position. Or in our technical terminology, if you want to say, if you want to bring back the cursor to the next line or new line or the starting of the line, I won't say new line. If you want to bring back the cursor to the starting of the line, then you can use the carriage return, right? Say for example, if cursor is there at the end, you want to bring back it to the starting of the line without modifying any content in the line, then you can use the carriage return. Then you can use carriage return. Right? These are the few special characters which is supported by the Java. And Java also supports as usual like your variables. So the variables is the basic unit of storage in Java program. Right? So either you can define a variable like a combination of identifiers or a type or an optional initializer. Right? So each and every type, I mean each and every variable will have some specific type like integer, character, byte, double, strong, long int, right, etc., etc. So how to declare the variable? It's very simple. Data type followed by the variable equals to value, followed by the variable equals to value. You can see here, you can define it as int a comma b comma c. A value you can store b comma b, a value equals to 10, b equals to 10, or byte equals to 22, double pi equals to this value, character equals to this value, right? So variables can be defined. So there are three types of variables in Java. One is called local variables, instance variables, class and or static variables, right? So what is local variables? As all of us know, the local variables are declared in the particular method or a constructor or block of code. They are local to that particular portion. They are local to that particular portion. So you need, if you want to use them outside the block, if you want to use them outside the block or outside the method, what we need to do? See, I have defined one variable as local variable. I want to use it outside that particular function or outside that particular block of code. What we need to do? What we need to do? So we need to specify the access specifier. Very simple. See, when you want to make one variable, sorry, when you want to make one variable as public, how to do it? If you mention the access specifier in front of the variable saying that public, then it will become public, right? So access specifiers or access modifiers will be used for the variables. Next is instance variables. So the instance variables are nothing but that are declared within a class, but outside the method, right? Outside the constructor or block or any method, it is called instance variables. So what is instance variable? That particular moment I require some variables, I'll initiate it and then I'll leave it, right? So that means for each instance of the variable, there will be one space created, one space will be allocated, right? So those are private to that particular class. Those are private to that particular class. Tomorrow, if you want to make them public, again you can use the access modifiers, right? So that means, so whenever you want to create a particular variable which is required only in that class, you can create it and you can make use of it. Then class and static variables. So as name itself indicates, the class and static variables. So class variables is also known as static variables. So already we have seen this. So whenever you want to make some value as static, then we are going to use the static variables, right? So the static keyword is going to be used, but outside the method or constructor or a block. So it will be static within the class only. Outside the class, it is not going to be static, right? So like once it is defined as static, you can use it anywhere with respect to that particular class, right? And very rarely we'll use static variables. because we don't use much of the time static variables, we'll use dynamic variables only, right? And if you want to make them public or private, you can also make them. Static allocation of the values to the variables. That means directly we are assigning some values to the variables. You can also do the dynamic initialization of variables. How to do the dynamic initialization of variables? It's very simple. So either using some expression or valid statements, we can do the dynamic initialization. Say for example, I'm calling this variable called C. Instead of passing the directly value 20 or 30 or 40, I'm calling one more function called math.square root of this value. So AB values may fix or may change, but the C value is going to be calculated dynamically based on the A and B values. So again, I'm repeating, based on the A and B values, the C value will be calculated. So AB might be fixed values or change, keep on changing the values. So this is how the dynamic initialization can be done in the Java. Dynamic initialization can be done in the Java. Not only in Java, in any programming language, you can do the dynamic initialization. All right. So the scope and lifetime of a variable. So as I said, once you declare any variable within the block, once you declare the variable within the block, so the scope is going to be that particular block. So once you create new block, if you call that variable, it won't come. You cannot access because that is confined to that particular block, right? So scope is nothing but at what extent objects are visible to other parts of your program. Or you can also say that what is the lifetime of those objects. See, usually in what is the scope, we will say a particular variable in a class is accessed only within that class. So that means the scope of the particular variable is within that class. Same way here, when you want to talk about scope in the Java, you should worry about the objects. Whether objects can be accessed only within that particular portion or it can be accessed outside the program, right? So that is how it is going to be decided. So based on the requirement of the program. So as like in Java, we have two major scopes that will be defined by a class and defined by a method. So as you know already, so the variables which is declared inside the scope are not visible. So that means, sorry, that means once you define a particular variable within the class, it cannot be accessed outside the class until unless you specify the access specifier, right? So what does it mean? So when you are developing or declaring a variable within the class, so the scope is going to be that particular class. So it is going to have access only within that particular class, and it will become local to that class. No one can modify it. It will become local to that particular class. No one can modify it. No one can modify it, right? Say for example, you can see here. So this is one class called scope. So within that we are writing some main function. Then we are writing one variable. So this X is accessible throughout the program. Throughout the program. So when you are initially, if you're going to check something like this, again the new scope will come. That means we can use X here also. And once you initialize some value like this, it is known only to this particular block or this particular code, right? So here, as usual, like X and Y both can be known here, and you can perform whatever task you want. Whatever task you want, you can perform. So what does it mean? So once you declare a variable within the class, it is going to be a local variable for that particular block of code or class of code. So suppose if you want to access this X outside this program, if you want to access this X outside the program, it is not possible. It is going to throw an error. It is going to throw an error, right? So that means, so the scope of the variable depends on the where you are going to define the variable, whether you are defining within the block, whether you are defining as a public, whether you are defining as a private. So it depends on the how you are going to declare the variables, how you are going to declare the variables, right? That is called scope. This is very much you know already where you studied in C programming. So what I teaching, I'm just repeating it now. So as usual in C programming, we can also define data types here. Variables also can be defined. Variables of three types: local variables, instance of the particular variable, and third type is going to be, what is the third type? Local variables, instance variables, What is the third type?
Class or static variable.
Very good. Class or static variables. And when you want to initialize the value for the variables, either you can assign the direct value or dynamically you can assign the value. How you are going to do it dynamically? If it is a direct assign, you can directly put the value into the variable like a equals to 20, b equals to 10 like that. If it is dynamic, we are going to pass through some equations or instructions or statements as a input to the particular variable, that is called dynamic. And apart from this, scope is nothing but so up to what extent we can access the objects or the members of a class. So if you define any variable within the class, it can be accessed only within that particular class. So if you want to make it public, so you can use the scope what you call, you can use the keyword called public, right? So which will become that particular variable or object will become public, which you can use within the program or outside the program, right? So how we are going to decide the scope of the variable or scope of the object? It purely depends on the application which we are going to develop. It purely depends on the application which we are going to develop. So you cannot define just like that. So first you need to see what is the requirement. Based on that, you need to decide whether I need to give the access of this particular variable outside the program or not. So once you give your access outside the program, it will become public. So once it become public, anyone can access it, anyone can modify it. So we should be very careful when you are defining the scope of the variable as a programmer, right? Right. Next comes type conversion and casting. So as you know, type conversion is nothing but converting the one data type to another data type. Conversion of one data type to another data type. So as I said, low level data type can be easily converted into high level, but high level cannot be converted into low level. You can convert it, but you are not going to get the exact output. You're not going to get the exact output. So that means the low level data types can be easily converted into high level, but not the high level into low level. So when you are doing the typecasting or type conversion and typecasting, so this is the implicit way of doing it. So you can start from byte, you can convert it to short, int, long, float, double. Same wise, you can want to take it explicitly done. Narrowing, it will be double, float, long, int, short, byte. So that means you can go from here to here, you can come from here to here. So both are possible. As I said, so it purely depends on the what type of data we are going to use. So Java automatically convert these data types, which is called implicit type conversion, which we are going to use, right? So what is implicit type conversion? Say for example, one type of data is assigned to another type of variable. Say integer a, I have assigned some character and assign some character value. So in Java we have automatic time conversion, so which will takes place and it will convert the value. Now, so the only thing is the two types should be compatible. So as I said, if character a equals to 20, you cannot convert into directly character. So what we need to do? We need to see the ASCII characters, then you need to convert. And the problem is, if suppose I'm using byte as a data type, I'm storing integer. So what is the problem with this? Byte size is only 1 byte, whereas integer is 4. So when you store 4 bytes value, it's very difficult to hold it. So that is another place where we will also get the errors. Right? So that means whenever you are doing the typecasting or type conversion, we should be very careful about the size as well as the type of the data type which we are using. So Java will allow implicit type conversion automatically. If there is a possibility that we can convert it, so Java will do it directly. It won't ask the programmer. So that is called implicit type conversion. Now you can see here long L. So it can be also converted into integer equals to integer I, where L equals to I. So depending on the size, you can convert and you can store it into the integer, right? And then comes typecasting. So although the Java supports automatic type conversions, so it's not going to fulfill all the needs. As I said, there is a possibility that you may lose the data or you may get the wrong output, right? So now what are you going to do if you want to convert or if you want to narrow the conversion between two incompatible types, as I said, like integer to character or character to integer or something like that. So you will use the cast. So cast is going to be explicit type conversion, right? So explicit type conversion. So what is the format of the typecasting or casting types? Target type and value. So now we'll see one example, then you can understand. Say for example, I have some value in double. If I want to convert this one into long, how I can do? So very simple, long 1 equals to long of d. Now this d will be get converted into long. Say for example, this L I want to long L, sorry. If I want to convert this long L to integer, int I equals to int of L. So that means explicitly you can convert the data type using the format data type, new data type variable equals to data type of variable, old variable, right? New data type variable equals to new data type of variable. So then it will get converted into that. Say for example, here the double can be converted into long like this. How to do that? The new data type is long, variable name is L, and new data type is long, and which one I want to convert? I want to convert D. So now I put the D. Same way, if I want to convert this L into integer, int I equals to int of L. So that means explicit type conversion is also possible, which is called as typecasting. So implicit Java will take care wherever it is required. In some cases, if it is not able to do the implicit, or in some cases, if you find that I need to do the explicit type conversion, you can also do the explicit type conversion, right? You need to do the explicit type conversion. Now, so this is another example, automatic type promotion in expression. So say for example, we have taken byte value as 40, b 50, c equals to 100, and d equals to a star b by c. Now when you calculate this a star b, so obviously it is going to cross the range, right? Byte range will be crossed. Now what is going to happen? So in order to avoid this, automatically Java is going to consult with the compiler and see to it which data type if I use, there won't be any kind of disturbance, there won't be any kind of confusion while evaluating this expression, right? So that means when you want to perform a multiplied b, instead of doing with the byte operation, it will do with the integer. It will read byte as integer and then it will perform this operation. So then you are going to put as 2000, which can be easily stored in the integer, So that is called automatic type conversion. So Java understood that if I perform a and b operation, if I multiply a and b operation, I cannot store it with bytes. So that's why I'm just going to go the integers. So like that, it will perform the integer operation, then it will do the output, right? Sorry. So usually what will happen when you want to convert the byte into integer, if you do like this operation, you will get the error. Then how to do it? So we need to specifically mention which data type you are going to use, and then what is the output you are going to get or you are going to require to get. Same thing here, we have taken different types of data types. We try to multiply it to get the final output. So the final output will be double type, because the double is going to be the result. So double doesn't have any kind of restriction, like you can go up to 8 bytes, so it will get the output, right? These are some promotion rules with respect to Java data types. So all byte short character values are promoted to int. So you can convert byte short and character to int. If one operand is long, the whole expression is promoted to long. If one operand is float, the entire expression is promoted to float. These are like thumb rules, you should remember. If any one of the operand is double, the rest is, or the result is double. So this is how Java data types will be used. Used according to the requirement. See, you may ask one question here. So when we have implicit type conversion, when Java compiler or JVM could able to do it, when you require explicit type conversion. See, as I said, Java is strongly typed language. If you feel that this error may occur, There you need to write the solution before itself. It's not like a C program. In C programming, what we will do, we'll give the entire software to the customer. Customer will identify some errors. Again, we'll rectify it. No. If you feel that there is a possibility that I'll get the error. Say for example, you are multiplying the long value with integer. When you are multiplying the long value with integer, so the output is going to be obviously long. But if you are storing it in integer, you are going to get the wrong output. So for this kind of scenario, what you can do, you can convert the final output into the long. Final output into the long, right? So when you identify some error, there is a possibility that I'll get the error. Then you no need to hesitate. You no need to wait till the customer uses it. You can only write the error code, how it can be solved. So how it can be solved? You can tell the user when you want to do only integer arithmetic. You can tell the user, hey, the size should be between so and so values, and it should be a integer value, right? So that kind of activities you can perform. Otherwise, you are going to end up with the wrong results. Say for example, if I'm multiplying integer with character, what is the output? If I multiply integer with character, what is the output? Whether I'll get integer or character. Yes, if I multiply integer with character, whether I'll get integer or character. Right. So to avoid these kind of ambiguities, to avoid these kind of confusions, so what we're going to do here is we're going to use some thumb rules. So when you want to multiply integer with character, either you convert the character into ASCII code, then you do it. So it makes some sense. In future, when you want to use it also, you can convert back the value into ASCII code and then you can make use of it. So once you get into real-time application development, any of the industry or the software company, you face these kind of scenarios. Let me tell one example. You have given one column called A's. Ashish has entered his age as 19. So Ashish has entered age as 19, whereas Bhumika has entered as in letters 19, right? Whereas Pujita has entered just Roman letters 19. Now, if you want to calculate the average age of these three people, which format you are going to take? Whether you are going to take the letters, whether you are going to take the numbers, whether you are going to take the Roman letters. So to avoid this kind of confusion, we are going to do the implicit type conversion. So all the data types will be converted into single data type. Then the multiplication operation will be taken care, right? So this is how the data types will be used or performed in the Java, right? And the next concept is going to be arrays. So where we are going to talk about how to define arrays in Java, etc., etc. So I'll just stop it here. In the next class, we are going to see the arrays. So any questions are there, please ask me. I'll be happy to answer with respect to data types or with respect to anything which we discussed till now.